I started therapy during the pandemic. Anybody else find out that their mental health was not as stable as they thought it was? Yeah, I thought I was fine. 2 weeks alone in my apartment. Turns out I am not okay. I started therapy during the pandemic, which means I had to find a therapist during the pandemic. I don't know if you have to do that. That was difficult. It was easier finding toilet paper than it was finding an available therapist. I thought it'd be easy. Just call up somebody and be like, hey, I really need to talk to somebody. I'm having a really difficult time right now. And they were like, yeah, so is everybody. Just get in line. We'll pencil you in for the 4th variant if you want, but that's all we got. I eventually did find a therapist, and mental health problems are different. They're not like physical health problems, because a physical health problem, the doctor just puts up an x-ray and he goes, see that? You got a space in your bones. That's how you can tell it's broken, just by looking at it. A mental health problem is just you feel regular emotions too much or too little. Like if you're just somebody who worries, that's fine, everybody worries. But if you worry too much, then you have anxiety. That's when the doctor's like, okay, you worry a medically concerning amount. So that's what happened to me. I found out I have anxiety. That's what my therapist told me. She told me I have a mental health issue. She goes, you have a mental health issue. You have anxiety. That is your mental health issue. And I was like, okay, maybe. But I kind of feel like if you live in the world we do and you don't have anxiety or depression, clearly that's the issue, is it not? Like, what are you, walking around fine? Pandemic, war, social media, like, it's going great. I think if you live in the world we do and you don't have anxiety or depression, you should see a therapist, because something is clearly wrong. I do get a lot of my anxiety from social media. And the funny thing about that is that there's so many of these mental health advice accounts on social media. Have you seen these? They're like accounts that will post things like, go for a walk, or do a breathing exercise, try some yoga. And I think if you get mental health advice from social media, it's a lot like getting rehab tips from your drug dealer. Like, it's not the place. You know what those accounts will never post? Throw away your phone and go live in the woods. That's the only way. I have been in therapy for a while, and I quickly learned that being in therapy is a lot like going to the mechanic, except with one big difference. So I go to the mechanic, they throw up your car, they get under it, and they're like, hey, come over here, let me show you something. All right, see, your problem is, your father was distant, that's why you have a crack in your axle. And your mother was overbearing, that's why your right wheel is loose like that. And you getting bullied in high school is a carburetor issue, that's why it keeps overheating. And you're just under there with them, and you're like, oh, interesting, okay. Can you fix it? Oh, no, we don't fix things here. We just point the problems out for you. Well, I probably shouldn't be driving like this, right? Oh, no, you really shouldn't be driving like this. You're heading for an accident, for sure. Well, what do I do? Well, what we're gonna do is teach you how to drive the car that you have with the problems that it has. That sounds hard. Oh yeah, it's not gonna be easy. Basically, you're gonna have to drive the car completely differently than you have your entire life. How do I do that? We're out of time actually, so why don't we just deal with that in like 3 weeks? And you're like, but the car's not running properly, how am I supposed to drive? Like, just avoid situations with oncoming traffic in the meantime, okay? And after a few months, they're just like, listen, okay, this is a manufacturing issue. The people who made this car had no idea what they were doing. They really shouldn't have been making cars. They kind of met in a garage with some scrap metal and they put it together. Honestly, they should have started with a bicycle. Really, those people should probably see a mechanic. And you're like, yeah, they should. Will they? They will not. They don't actually believe in mechanics. They kind of feel like if you pray to the Subaru gods, it'll all be okay. I went to a different specialist and found out that I have ADHD. That one I did know about, because ADHD is the only disease where all of your friends tell you you have it well before any doctor does. I know my friends that got diagnosed with ADHD, they're like, yeah, we knew. We tried to tell you, but you weren't listening. Because you got distracted by a bird that reminded you of Spider-Man. And you're like, why isn't there a Birdman? And you walked around going, Birdman, Birdman, does whatever a bird can. Here was my first clue that I had ADHD. Somebody gave me the number of the specialist who deals with ADHD, and it took me 2.5 years to make the appointment. You understand it took a global pandemic and the world's shutting down for me to be like, all right, maybe I'll call that guy. And even then it took like 4 months because I was like, I'll watch Netflix first. And the thing about ADHD is a lot of people try to help you with that, but the solution to give you is basically the problem. Like they'll be like, hey, have you tried having structure or planning ahead, maybe? It's like, that's the issue, man. That's like if you had cancer, people walked up, have you had tried less of a tumor? That would really be helpful. I tried medication for my mental health issues, and that didn't work at all. That's the funny thing about anti-vaxxers to me. You know, have you heard of these anti-vaxxers with their vaccine conspiracy theories? Where they're like, bro, it's a mind control drug, bro. Bro, it's a mind, that's what the jab is, it's a mind control drug. That's what they're putting in you. I want to be like, dude, I have ADHD and anxiety. I've tried 3 different drugs to control my mind. They haven't done anything. If there's one that works, put it in, okay? Turn this off. Anyway, so I quit therapy and medication, and I just stopped taking care of my mental health. Because what happened is, at a certain point, I realized that I'm right. You know, because my therapist is like, what gives you anxiety? Like, what is it that makes you feel so anxious? And I'm like, well, the world is ending, nobody cares. Billionaires own everything, Donald Trump is president, the church still exists, and people keep dating Pete Davidson, okay? I'm not the one who's crazy. I've been Jeevan Gill, thank you so much for coming out, guys.